It's official. Congressional Republicans met behind closed doors and have nominated Steve Scalise for the speakership rather than Jim Jordan, despite the fact that Jordan got Trump's endorsement. We're going to see the latest on the Scalise nomination, how it already looks to be a train wreck in the making, and we're going to see precisely why congressional Republicans continue to betray the grassroots voters who put them into power. You're not going to want to miss this. Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. If you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, make sure to share this video with friends and family if you would. We are once again, unfortunately, being suppressed by big tech, so I need your help to get the hopeful message of this channel out to as many people as possible. So, congressional Republicans met behind closed doors yesterday and nominated Steve Scalise to be Speaker. This is just a nomination. He has yet to be voted on by the entire House. It was a close vote, but Scalise squeaked by Jim Jordan, despite the fact that Jordan was indeed endorsed by President Trump. Now, if you don't know, Scalise is the donor class approved candidate for Speaker, and that's because he's absolutely pro-Ukraine, pro-military industrial complex. And so with the Scalise speakership, the money is going to continue to flow unabated to Ukraine. So that would be just replacing, unfortunately, one establishment shill for another, though I like Scalise better than McCarthy. The utterly repulsive Adam Kinzinger has endorsed Scalise. He said he's the best choice for continuing the absurd status quo with Ukraine. And so you shouldn't be surprised that it's now being widely reported that Scalise simply doesn't have the votes. I mean, Breitbart is reporting this, perhaps as many as 20 Republicans are going to vote against him. So we really are witnessing a train wreck in real time here. One of my favorite Twitter feeds, Cat Turd, said it best, as usual. Republican voters overwhelmingly wanted Jim Jordan over Steve Scalise for Speaker. So, naturally, the Republican Party did a secret ballot behind closed doors to pick Steve Scalise. The great Lou Dobbs asked an equally great question. Why can't House GOP follow the leader of the party? President Trump endorses Jim Jordan, and half the House Republicans instead vote for the next in line, RINO Scalise. And that's a great question. I mean, perhaps it's the question of all questions for the GOP. Why do Republicans in D.C. have such a hard time rallying around the leader of our party? They seem to rally around something or anything other than what Republican voters want. One of my favorite political analysts and good friend of this channel, Red Eagle Politics, he summed up the idiocy of the rhino-infested GOP well. We gained control of Congress for the first time since 2016, and the first thing we do is waste time sending blank checks overseas to fund foreign conflicts and trying to expel one of our best congressmen to appease the left. This is why we are losing our country. And he's referring there in particular to the attempt by Republicans to oust their fellow Republican George Santos from the House. Again, I repeat, Republicans like New York Representative Anthony D'Esposito are trying to oust a Republican from Congress. I mean, what more evidence do we need of a uniparty that's led and choreographed and managed by the Democrats, right, with the Republicans playing the role of the Washington Generals, right, who are paid to lose to the Harlem Globetrotters. I mean, that's what these idiot rhinos ultimately are. They're paid losers. They're paid to throw the fight, and they want you to think they're virtuous in doing it. Again, it's just utterly absurd. So what's going on here? What are the Republicans What are they doing to themselves? Well, we're going to answer exactly that question. But of course, this all begs the question, what are you going to do about this? Are you ready to stand up and join the resistance? Because I'm leading a group of dedicated, courageous patriots who can lead a spearhead into the heart of the secular globalist establishment. Think about it, gang. We punished Bud Light and Target. We've driven CNN and the legacy media to near bankruptcy. We forced BlackRock to backtrack on ESG. And We've seen our glorious Trump-appointed Supreme Court ending affirmative action and protecting religious liberty. In my Insiders Club, I show you concrete steps to take locally and online that will only keep this mass uprising going until the battle is finally won. So don't wait. Click on that link in my description below and join my Courageous Patriots Insiders Club today. When all is said and done, the bottom line is that the political class Republicans simply have no idea what to do with the Republican grassroots that's increasingly dominated by working class voters. And the reason for that is because they occupy such a different cultural space than the grassroots, that they simply couldn't be more alienated from one another. So, for example, if you want to see what cultural space is animating Republican victory right now, take a look at the latest poll from Pennsylvania. This is going to blow your mind. According to Emerson polling, Trump is beating Biden by 9 points in freaking Pennsylvania. And the reason for that is simple. I've heard it put. Pennsylvania is Philadelphia on one side on the east and Pittsburgh on the other side in the west, with Alabama in between. Pennsylvania is as rural working class as you can get. And that's the vote that's coming out en masse for Trump. Now, note, they're not coming out for the Republican Party. In fact, the Republican nominee at this point for Senate, Dave McCormick, he's trailing the Democrat Bob Casey by the same 9-point deficit. And why should we be surprised? Why, given what congressional Republicans are constantly trying to shove down our throats and betray their voters? This is also why no other Republican candidate can even come close to besting Trump in the rural working class vote. No one, not DeSantis, not Haley, certainly not Christie or Pence. No one comes close to evoking the loyalty and excitement and passion and enthusiasm of the working class more than Trump. And again, just in case you might think Pennsylvania is a bit of an outlier here, take a look at the latest from the battleground state of Michigan. Trump is beating Biden there by a decisive 7 points, 42-35. In fact, Rich Barris of the People's Pundit noted that Trump is leading on the RCP average, not only nationally, but also in both Michigan and Pennsylvania. This simply never happened either in 2016 or 2020. That's why Rich is constantly saying, based on the polling data, Trump has never been stronger. DeSantis, Pence, Christie, they all want you to think that Trump has never been weaker than he is right now, when in point of fact, all the data suggests the opposite. Trump has never, ever been stronger. He never led with this kind of lead. He never had poll numbers like this in 2016 or 2020. All of the momentum is moving towards Trump and his populist MAGA America First agenda. And what are the freaking congressional Republicans doing? They're moving in the direction of the donors of McCarthy, McConnell, Mittens Romney, and Lindsey Graham. It's beyond absurd. But that, of course, is what these Republican donors ultimately are. They're absurd. They're political morons. Because they've learned that if you want to pay to play in the power politics of Washington, D.C., you have to appease the Democrats, since the Democrats basically own the town. Republicans are just renters in D.C. The Democrats are the owners. They own the deep state. They own permanent Washington. And if you want the benefits of power and affluence given to you by permanent Washington, you have got to appease the Democrats. And that means staying away from Trump and the MAGA movement, even though it's Trump and the MAGA movement that are more and more becoming the defining forces of our politics today. So obviously we'll see how things play out here. But my guess is that Scalise is not going to have the votes, which will in turn eventually force a vote on Jim Jordan. I think that should ultimately pass, which would mean that Trump, in the end, got his pick after all.